Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty, Haggerty10 Twitter handle. You know that. The three amigos are reassembled. And yes, domestic football's returning. Yes, it's been a long month, guys. But hey, we're almost there. It's Friday, December the 16th. And I'm joined today, as always, by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW and Aidan Macdonald at 𝘀𝗶𝘆 sporting the Adidas cap there.
What I say, did you have to look twice to see who it was there, Tony? Who's under there? Who's under there?
Who's under the cap? Indeed. Welcome everybody, guys. How we doing?
Not bad, Tony. Aye, excited.
Indeed. Well, yes. We'll talk about that in 2 seconds. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, draw your attention to the offer that we have. We've always got an offer for you, and this is December's offer, the Merry Christmas offer. You can get 25% off the yearly price, the yearly rate, which takes it down to 26 quid. That's for a limited time only. Or if you subscribe for £1, you can enjoy 2 months of free access to everything that's written on the site. And all you have to do, as we tell you every day, is to hit a button. And that button is www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And we thank everybody that's already subscribed to the website and watches the pods. We thank you for that. It's a wonderful wee community we have here, and we enjoy the interaction, and we'll sure have more today indeed. Now, gentlemen, Celtic travel to Aberdeen, 𝘀𝗀𝘁𝗲 tomorrow to play. It's been a long month, Sean.
Yep.
Football's back, real football as we call it. We've enjoyed the World Cup. It's been great. Aidan's had his moment with Juranovic going the furthest in the tournament and all that. And there you have it. He's bowing down. We're bowing down to him for that. He might have another moment with Argentina and Messi win it. Yes. We'll not go over my World Cup.
Mbappe top goal scorer as well, Tony.
They're in the bin. Oh, Mbappe's all right. They're in the bin.
Not that he's bagging or anything, Tony.
But hey, real football's back, as I would call it. Real football. Time to talk about the leather belts, the 𝘁𝗀𝗁𝗲, the fuzzy felts. Now let's do it. Aberdeen, Sean, tricky one to come back to, but we'll see how Celtic react, and after the break, and hopefully it's full steam ahead.
After a break in which they didn't win a game, as somebody commented last week. It is a tricky one, 𝘁𝗀𝗁𝗲, not for Celtic in particular in the last few years, as we'll come to, because I've got some form stats and all that, but just in general, they are doing well, particularly at 𝘁𝗁𝗲. We put up an expected points table on the website yesterday, Tony. You can see you glazing over already, but it is something some people like, so we put that up. They're third in the actual table, obviously. They're fourth in the expected points table, which is based on the XG you create and the kind of how one-sided a game is that you've been involved in. Hibs actually should be third, but they've just been so poor in terms of being unable to win matches, as maybe you've seen last night. That they should. The Aberdeen are actually third in that as well. But we'll be updating that periodically, by the way, the expected points table. So I'll put the link in just now if anybody wants to read it. Okay. And I will update that periodically as the season goes forward. But to get back to your point, 𝘁𝗁𝗁𝗲, it's a hard place to go. Aidan wrote a column or a newsletter on the Celtic's kind of next 5 opponents. Within that is Aberdeen, and he's got a couple of stats. Particularly, Aidan, I want you to come to the Bojan Majowski one, and when we come to talk about personnel. But in terms of playing at 𝘁𝗁𝗁𝗲, Aberdeen this season first of all, they haven't drawn a match at all since early September, so it's either a win or a loss. But at 𝘁𝗁𝗁𝗲, they've won 9 of 10 matches in all competitions. So Jim Goodwin has turned it back into something of a fortress, to use a cliche, and they've had 5 clean sheets in that run as well.
Yeah, I mean, Aidan, you can hit us with some more stats. The expected points table. You know me, I'm an actual points table, an actual goals kind of guy. As you said, my eyes glazed over, but no, I appreciate the science in these and the actual workings of it, and I do take heed of it. But Aidan,
Andrew reads it. Reads it.
Indeed. Lots of people read it. Aidan, it is a tricky one, isn't it? As I said to Sean, and but you've got to play them at some stage, so you can't avoid it. So, as you say, if Celtic turn up and bring their A game and play their football, as Ange likes to say, then you'd like to think they'll be able to triumph.
Yeah, and as Sean mentioned, obviously Celtic's recent record there has been really, really strong. It is probably a fixture you'd rather just sort of play and get out of the way as well in terms of this sort of second batch of games when you're playing teams for the second time. Obviously, but we're coming off a break, so any kind of form that was going in, it's maybe a wee bit harder to take that into consideration, whether it be bad or good. But Celtic were playing pretty well going into the break in terms of results anyway. I know there was a few games that were a wee bit closer, such as that Ross County game, but there's no reason why you shouldn't have confidence that the way the team was playing, they can go in and get a result. Aberdeen, obviously, as Sean was mentioned there, we've had a kind of interesting season. No draws really since the middle of September, which is a bit odd. They've been pretty strong at home. I think if we take their individual league games, they've won 6 out of 7. I think the only outlier being they lost 3-2 to Motherwell near the start of the season. But overall at home, they've been pretty strong at 𝘁𝗀𝗁, and they seem to be, obviously there's not been any draws, but they seem to be getting sort of like crawling back to that stage where they kind of solve near enough getting a result against every other team outside of Celtic and Rangers, which for quite a long period of time, that was the reason it was keeping them third. They weren't always doing that great against Celtic and Rangers. I think the exception 16, 17, 17, 18, I know they did finish second, but I'm pretty sure during that time, apart from one game, they didn't take many points against Celtic. So they seem to be sort of getting back to beating the other teams in the league. Whether or not, well, hopefully that doesn't translate, I should say, into the game tomorrow. But just need to wait and see. But there's no reason why Celtic shouldn't be confident, I would say, Tony.
On that note, Tony, Aberdeen haven't beaten Celtic since May 2018 at all in any competition. And if you remember that one, it was the final day of the season. Celtic had already won the league, all that kind of stuff. There's only so much stock you can place in that kind of day. So it's been 18 matches between them since then, and Celtic have won 15 and drawn 3. And if you go just 𝘁𝗁𝗁, which obviously is arguably more relevant because it is up at 𝘁𝗁𝗁 on this occasion, you've got to go back almost 7 years, February 2016, since the Dons beat Celtic at home. Johnny Hayes actually scored for Aberdeen that day, if you remember.
Yeah, I remember that well, yeah. I'm touching a wooden pencil to hope that you haven't jinxed anything there, Sean, you know what I mean?
Well.
Touching wood, but yeah.
We've got a message here from 𝘁𝗶𝘁𝗲, who is in Aberdeen, Tony. He says, "Good morning, boys, from a frozen Aberdeen." An unfairly maligned city, Aberdeen, Tony, I would always argue.
Well, you have experience of working there, so you be able to fill us in on the city itself and the people there. So yeah,
Certainly the pub crawls anyway. But
if it's unfairly maligned, I'll take your word for it. I've always enjoyed going up, and I've always enjoyed going to 𝘁𝗁𝗁 and watching football matches because the people there treat you well and they're good to you. So I have no qualms about going to Aberdeen on a freezing cold day. Sean driving up and taking in an Aberdeen Celtic match.
Tam Mack saying he hopes this Aberdeen game goes ahead tomorrow because the weather up there is atrocious. As Joe mentioned there, it's frozen and snow and all of that. To be honest, it takes a lot for a game at 𝘁𝗁𝗁 to be put off for that. It's usually the Highland League that sees a wipeout up there in a weekend like this. So if there's any sort of doubt, I think they would be talking about it today. There'll be an inspection and stuff today. So
it's also a Sky TV game, isn't it? So
it is. So that adds another wee bit.
Another layer of that they'll want it to go on for the spectacle and the programming scheduling. So I'm not saying that's the reason why it should go on. Talk about players' health and safety. If it has to be cancelled, then it has to be cancelled. But I'm sure they'll try everything that they can to get the game to go ahead. So
some love for Aberdeen as a city from Sean Malloy here. Maybe it's something in the name, but so Aidan, this time round they're playing Aberdeen are playing Celtic, and they have in their ranks the joint top scorer in the league, don't they? And you dug up quite an interesting. Well, I found it quite an interesting stat on Bojan Majowski. In that piece, do you remember it? The start in front of goal. I found it dead interesting.
Yeah, in terms of his shots on target. And
the last 4 games or so, was it?
Yeah, it was
last 4 shots or something.
It was. I think it was across these last 4 or 5 league games. He'd every time he'd scored a goal, I should say, and it was his last 4 or 5 times he'd found the back of the net. The goals that came from that was his only shots on target during the match.
So clinical.
Yeah, so it pretty much shows that he's a lethal threat. I mean, you can see that anyway from his goals record, obviously. 11 goals, I think it is. He's been a really good signing, also. I think there's been a bit of talk about whether or not Aberdeen would be able to hold on to him. Dave Cormack, I think, was getting asked that when it was their AGM recently. But yeah, he's going to be a threat, obviously, and Celtic's going to have to deal with him like they've tried to deal with most of the other attackers in the league. I think, obviously, the fact you've got sort of Cameron Carter-Vickers, and you've got Carl Starfelt, etc. And finally, that's a good point, mate. The Carter-Vickers, he might not be available for this game. I'm just leaving that off there. Do we actually know
Well,
that?
Michael Ross is asking that very question. You'll find out. They are back, obviously, but you'll find out from Ange later on in the day if there's any sort of delays with getting them back in the squad. But he is back in Glasgow, isn't he? So.
Right, okay, yeah, that's fine. So potentially he could be available, but even if he's not, if it's Jens and Starfelt, obviously across the board, we probably have leaked a bit more goals at times than the manager would have liked this season domestically, but most of the defensive performance have been relatively controlled, even if there has been a goal conceded in that. So just need to have to wait and see. Hopefully they can deal with him, but he's definitely going to be a threat. It's not somebody you need to give too many opportunities to based off his recent stats.
I'm laughing. It's a bugbear of yours, Sean, isn't it? Regardless of the fact that they're winning matches, the concession of goals is always something that's kind of riled you.
It's not something that riles me. It's just something I point out because it's a fact that they're not keeping as many clean sheets as I probably think that they should be. And despite that, there'll no doubt be a comment coming in saying Ange doesn't care about clean sheets. He'll care about clean sheets if they're struggling to score goals. I think it makes sense to get both rather than just saying, "Oh, he doesn't care about that." So we'll see. It might be better if you reunite Carter-Vickers and Starfelt. Remember, in a few weeks, you'll have 𝘀𝗶𝘁𝗍 to come in and stake his claim for a place. 𝘁cie has actually been playing quite well, I think, for the most part. I think the clean sheets will take care of themselves the more that there's a consistency of selection and the more that people play together.
Yeah, and speaking of consistency of selection, without getting into too much detail, but do we envisage, what kind of personnel do we envisage tomorrow?
I'm looking forward to reading all our predicted 11s, Tony, put it that way, because we'll wait until...
We'll know more when Ange speaks, obviously, yeah, of course.
We'll wait and see if he rules anybody out, but in general terms, I think Anthony Ralston at right back's probably a given, given the Juranovic and Johnston situations and stuff. I think that's a fair shout. Joe Hart between the sticks, Greg Taylor left back. I mean, you could play Bernabei. There's no reason not, but I just think first game back, you'll go with your first choice. Interesting to see if Callum McGregor plays, because he obviously played against Rennes in the friendly. I'd say as before, I wouldn't panic if he doesn't. Maybe if he wants to make it a slower progress back to a start or a full 90. There's every chance he does start anyway. I'm sure Ange will be asked about that later on. So, and then up front, you've got so many options here. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm really intrigued to see if how many players we have the same.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see if Georgios Giakoumakis plays as well.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued about that
speculation.
Yeah, lots of managers think speculation gets to players' heads and maybe rest them. Other managers, like what I say a lot of the time, play through it. If you're playing, if you're hit a dip in form, some managers prefer you to play through it. Others managers prefer to rotate you from the side. Don't know if Ange would be a kind of play through this kind of speculation stuff, Aidan, or sit on the bench.
It's probably hard to tell because this is really the sort of first situation that we've seen with a player when it's actually been during the season that he's been, I don't even want to say heavily linked away, but you know what I mean. There was obviously talk over the summer at the time Juranovic could potentially have been on the move from the club, but it was very much during pre-season, if I remember rightly. It was just when they were sort of coming back into the swing of things. They were having like press conferences ahead of like friendly games and stuff. So we don't really know what fully Andrew's approach will be from a Celtic point of view when that happens. If he's on the bench, I wouldn't really read that much into it, to be honest. I mean, because I would still be expecting 𝘀𝗶𝘁𝗲 to start personally. So we'll just need to wait and see from that regardless.
Well, Sean and myself have always said that 𝘀𝗶𝘁𝗲's the definite starter, isn't he? If the two of them are fit.
I think so. And I think Ange Postecoglou's selection choices probably backs that up. We've got a comment here just about the clean sheets. Peter Morrison, Celtic not get the most clean sheets. It doesn't really matter to me if they've got the most. It's how many they're keeping compared to the games they're playing, and they're not keeping that many. They've had 6 all season, but they've only had 1 since the Rangers 4-0 game. which just isn't good enough for me at the back, really. Whether they're winning or not, because they obviously are winning, but it's still something that they've got to improve. You've got to get the marginal gains in this situation, and I think more clean sheets would be one.
I mean, I only bring up 𝘀𝗶𝘁𝗲's situation because I'm more intrigued to see how the manager handles it. That's my point. It's not exactly the player. I always like to try and delve into the mindset of the manager, you know. So, and we all know that he prefers Kyogo in big games, and I think this is a big game. And I think one of the commenters mentioned it earlier. It is a game for Celtic to send out a kind of statement of intent, really, isn't it? To say that their form's not been affected in the layoff, and if anything, they've used that time wisely. I think it was David Ferguson that also said if they not had a month to get improve and get better.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. I think that I spoke to a manager the other day, James 𝘀𝗶𝘁𝗲, and he said the most valuable commodity a manager can have with players is time.
Yep.
Now I'm interested to see how Celtic come out the blocks tomorrow, to see how they have used that time, and to see how, because the manager will have loved having the nucleus of that team.
That's the thing. There was only
pitch,
4 players. Only 4
missing.
players away.
No,
only 4 players, which isn't a lot. I know it was key players. 𝘁𝗀𝘆, Juranovic, 𝘁cie𝗱verbs, 𝘁 to a lesser extent. I think they're all key players. But he's had the rest of them, and he's had them away twice, and he's had them at Lennoxtown. So I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
I'm fascinated by that. I want to see how that manifests itself in the first domestic game back tomorrow, because this is it now. This is your push towards the end of the season, and as we keep banging on about Sean, Celtic still have a domestic treble up for grabs. Never at one stage said they're going to win the domestic treble, but they are in it to win it.
That's got to be the
aim on all fronts, and I think after last season, I think there'll be a determination to try and achieve that.
How do you improve on a double, a treble?
Yeah, a treble.
You know what I mean? I mean, context matters, and you never know what will happen. But that, to me, you've got to be going for all 3.
So those subtle nuances and those things that you talk about as well, and also I want to see if 𝘁𝗀𝘁𝗲 thinks McGregor's right as well. So
as Jerry Smith comes in saying, but he doesn't think Ange will start McGregor tomorrow, especially with the conditions up in Aberdeen. What do you think? Would you reckon, Aidan?
I think, to be honest, if he's been signed off fully by the medical team, I think he'll play, to be honest, regardless of the conditions that are. People might say it is a bit of a risk. He obviously clocked in a decent amount of minutes against Rennes in the friendly, so I think if he's available, he'll be putting McGregor in, to be honest, because it's a really, really important game. If there's still a slight injury concern, then fair enough, he might start on the bench, but I'm kind of expecting him to start, to be honest. The fact that he started in the friendly, didn't he? So I kind of felt that that was a sign that he was, as we'd been sort of told that by Ange, that up in the run up till the break that he was making decent progress in that. You don't know how much sometimes that's maybe the manager just shout on what's happening, but the fact that he was involved quite heavily in that friendly, I know it was just a bounce game, but just in terms of minutes on the field, running about, etc., I'm expecting him to start. I don't know about you guys, but
well, you're right enough. If he's been signed off by the medical team and he's been training, then therefore he is fit, he will play. I suppose it won't be the weather. I agree with you. I don't think he'll factor that in. If he's ready to play, he'll just play. But what I would be wondering is in terms of managing his progress back to a full 90, because when he starts, he doesn't really get taken off. And
that's true.
If you think on if a match situation, say the plan would be to start him and like the end game, take him off. If it's not quite going to plan, you're not taking McGregor off, and you're playing an unscheduled 90 minutes, that kind of thing. So I wonder if that'll play into it in terms of getting him back up to speed, like he's done with other injured players. But you're right, Aidan. See if he's been training, which he has been, and he started against Rennes, albeit get taken off, and then the medical team says no, he is fine. Then 𝘁𝗁𝘁𝗲 will see the green light probably and just say, well, he's my captain, he's playing. So
you know what players are like as well. Players want to play. They'll tell you they're great, So, and again, that's another situation where I want to see 𝘁𝗁𝘁𝗁𝘁𝗲's handling of it in a managerial sense, And I know fine well he won't take any unnecessary risks. If Callum McGregor plays tomorrow, it will be because he's ready.
Yeah,
he's been passed by the medical team, and there is no risk. So, and that'll be the manager's call on that, So I'm intrigued by that as well. There's a lot of interesting wee subplots for tomorrow in terms of Celtic personnel and selection. Andrew Galea, I'm looking for a big game from Ralston and Taylor. he's got big games from Ralston and Taylor on many occasions this season, I would have thought, Aidan.
Yeah, I would say they've both been pretty good this season, Tony, when they've played. But as always, it's been probably discussed at this point. We know how important the fullbacks are to the way Ange wants to play, etc. So if Celtic do get a positive result and a good performance tomorrow, you would imagine that they'll have played their part as they usually do. So I'm sure they'll put in a good performance, Tony. Particularly your boy Tony Ralston, of course.
Sean, what are you looking for most? Are you looking for a statement win? Are you looking for a performance, regardless of what personnel plays?
I think both. The usual tick both columns. I think first and foremost get the win, obviously, but no, I think I can see where you're coming from. Given the team in second place, what is it? The other team, they struggled to a 3-2 win at home last night. I think to go in and really lay down another marker, just remind people who's the team with the lead at the top and who's the best team in the country, that kind of thing. I think that would make a statement. But that said, first priority is get the 3 points, isn't it?
Yeah, and maintain that 9-point lead at the top, Aidan, which is healthy at this moment in time.
Yeah, it's a really healthy lead to have.
It's technically 6 to now, but
Oh,
9
six,
points.
yeah.
Back to 9.
And you establish that 9-point lead.
Aye.
It's a pretty healthy lead to have, and I know we discussed it just as the break before the break was about to come in during the pods over the sort of World Cup winter shutdown, etc. We mentioned how this is the sort of gap. If you had that come the end of the season, you'd be buzzing and absolutely delighted. So to have that in sort of November as it was then when the season sort of wrapped up for the first part of it was excellent. But Ange will want to retain that and better it. I've got no doubt about that. If that's a case of bettering it before Celtic play Rangers or the game against Ibrox, assuming that Celtic have won all their games before then, obviously he'll be wanting to make the gap as wide as possible, because it's unlikely, but given the sort of record that Ange had over the year before that defeat to St Mirren, then since then it's been pretty relentless, but all it can take is a couple of results to undo it. So he'll not want it to be the team to be resting their laurels, and I don't think they will be, because the players have said that before, that the manager doesn't let them. It's just not the way he operates, and I think that's the best way to be, just to keep that sort of momentum going, because you don't want to let anything slip. And crucial to this winter period, the sort of, as I mentioned in the article that I wrote, it could potentially be season defining, really. And I know we've probably maybe said that across at different periods across the season already. Every sort of few games are season defining, but if you look at some of the fixtures in this sort of list, away to Aberdeen, away to Hibs, even home at Livingston, a team who Boston Coglu does have a good record against, but in the past have been it's all people talk about the away record previously before Ange came in, but there was quite a few draws at home against Livingston as well. So that's a fixture to get out of the way, and obviously the trip to Ibrox. So there's plenty of big games coming up that obviously Ange will be wanting to do well in. So if we can get through that, then should be sitting in a good position come the 3rd of January.
Tony, I'm going to put this comment up from Mahaj. Easier for the opposition to organise and practice defensive shape for a month than Celtic's ability to work on their attack. Everybody knows Celtic's attacking patterns. Now, that is grounded in logic, Tony. It is easier to try to prepare to stop something than try and come up with something new. But what I would say to that is that Ange Postecoglou has addressed that very point before, hasn't he? When he said it's one thing knowing what we're going to do, it's another one actually stopping it.
Correct. And it's also having you mentioned it yourself, from the front. We've got a plethora of options there, haven't they? So Celtic can mix it up, play different players in attacking situations. So whilst I agree with the logic, I don't agree with the fact that it's easier to do that. Because what Celtic's front players, what you got: Jota, Maeda, Kyogo, George Giakoumakis, 𝘁cie𝗱𝘆, James Forrest, Abada. There's 7, right? Right, okay. You stop 2 or 3 of them, then you put on another couple, don't you? You just rotate it or whatever, or you try something different. So I always think that if it comes to attacking against defence and Celtic being relentless as they are, Celtic will always find a way. They usually do. And they have the players to find a way, which is why we brought in those players to find a way when games are like that. And most games are like that against Celtic, aren't they? Most opposition like to park the bus and try and stop Celtic from playing. That's a lot, which is why Ange always refers to our brand of football. He says it a lot. If we play our brand of football, which he means, you can try and stop us, but if we bring our brand of football to the table, bring our A game, then they usually triumph. The St Mirren game apart, when there was arguably too many changes made, and it just wasn't working. And you get days like that, but we've had more days where it's worked and they've found a way than not. And I think the proof of that's in the pudding, proof of that's in the league table, and the proof of that is in the players who are determined to find a way, and bigs them up as well, that they just refuse to wilt, even when things aren't going their way, but they always find a way. A time capsule, Greg Taylor being the hero there, Sean, but they found a way that day, didn't they?
They usually do. Domestically, anyway, they usually do.
That was 𝘁cie𝗱𝘆, I think, that said that, wasn't it? On a badder. But there was an attacking element to that.
There is always a chance, Tony, that Aberdeen don't sit back like that.
Well, yes.
They've been playing 3 at the back, and generally speaking, they have more possession than their opponents. They do create more chances than their opponents. I suppose that comes with being the kind of third team in the country at the moment. But there is a chance, because it's 𝘁𝗀𝗁 and they do so well at 𝘁𝗁, that Jim Goodwin does try to go toe-to-toe, which I think you would rather see. But it very well might go back into the shell and play 5 at the back rather than 3, and try and make it difficult and try and catch them on the break. But
Aidan has alluded to, they have 𝘁𝗀𝗍, so why wouldn't you have a go? This is an intriguing game of football for me tomorrow. I think it could be a cracking game if Aberdeen come out and play. I think it's all premised on that. As you say, they might go 5 at the back, and that will give you an early indication of Jim Goodwin's intent. But Aidan said Aberdeen have won 6 out of 7. Why shouldn't they come out and play?
Have the 9 out of 10 in all competitions, 6 out of 7 in the league.
Have your coverage of your convictions, and see and go toe-to-toe. See what happens.
No, I mean, as I say, I don't know if they will.
No,
I suggest they probably will err on the side of ultra cautious, but you never know. He might decide to go for it, given the home form, first game back, different things. Against Celtic early in the season, it was a 4 at the back when he was at Celtic Park. He played 4 at the back quite a lot at the start of the season, and then switched to a 3, and he's pretty much been a 3 since. Played 3 against Rangers as well, get beat 4-1. Again, he might revert to type and go a wee bit cautious, even though it's at home. But you never know.
Yeah. Now, one player that is missing in 𝘁𝗀𝗍 this, Sean and Aidan, Josip Juranovic is missing, but he's also missing for Croatia, and an injury ruling him out 8 to 10 days. Do we think, in that sense, and there's lots of interest seemingly in him, has he kicked his last ball for Celtic in that sense?
I don't think so. No, I think
so,
no, because if you think on when he would be leaving anyway, I mean, if he does leave, and even if it is at the very, very start of the January transfer window, you've still got a couple of games there to come. It was 𝘁𝗶𝘁𝗆 romano, friend of the show, or at least it feels like he's a friend of the show at this point.
Yes.
It was him that said Juranovic will miss.
That's the only reason I brought it up, because it came from the oracle that is 𝘁𝗶𝘁𝗆 romano.
He says he'll miss the 3rd place playoff against Morocco tomorrow. He says he's expected to be out for around 8 to 10 days. Now, if that means from now rather than from the game that he injured himself in, which is maybe me thinking too much about it, if it's 8 to 10 days from now, that would include the Livingston and St Johnstone matches, as well as the Aberdeen match that he was going to miss anyway. So that means he'd be available for the Hibs game on the 28th. We will see, I suppose, what 𝘁cie 𝗱𝘆 has to say about it later today. You'd imagine it will be notified, even if Celtic's own people won't have assessed him yet. And we'll just take it from there. But no, I wouldn't say that I think he kicked his last ball for Celtic quite yet.
I don't want him to have kicked his last ball for Celtic. I was just throwing the question in there because of the source that it came from, and it's usually quite reliable, Aidan, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Fabrizio's had a couple of interesting shouts, but over the course, particularly for non-transfer news, I would say usually when it's injuries and that, he's pretty spot on. But I think, just to chime in on whether or not he's kicked his last ball, Juranovic, I don't think he has, even if he does leave in January. I just think there's exactly for the reason that Sean sort of mentioned there, the 2 games he'd be coming back into, sort of Hibs away and Celtic travelling to Ibrox, 2 massive games, 2 really tough games. I think potentially after those matches, if there was bids starting to come in, then yeah, he could potentially move on. But I think he'll be available for at least those 2 matches. Firstly, because to be fair, the Hibs match takes place before the transfer window opens, doesn't it? And then the game against Rangers is obviously right at the start on January 2nd. So I think he'll be available for at least those 2 matches anyway. After that, we just need to wait and see because we know what was at the World Cup. So
correct. And again, it's all subject to that interest being concrete bids, Sean. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So as I say, I was merely playing devil's advocate there. I'd like Juranovic to stay permanently, to be fair. But yes, I think the way the wind's blowing is that he will possibly leave in January for however much and to whatever club remains to be seen. But he's done himself every favour, hasn't he, in terms of
World Cup adds a lot to your market value.
A lot of plaudits. So yeah, I mean, if he gets a dream move or he gets another move, then you shake hands and say thank you very much, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout. Frank Brennan coming in here with a wee comment saying playing 10 at the back and describing it as a wee bit cautious, showing his politeness in the extreme. Fair enough. I suppose brings us to our first score prediction back then, does it, Tony? Aidan? Any volunteers to go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
I'll say 3-1. I'll say
3-1.
3-1 Celtic.
Aidan?
I will go 2-0 Celtic.
I'll go 2-1. So we're all different scores, eh? All different
scores. Oh, there you go. All different scores, but there you go. Michael Ross, Kaiser's agreeing with me. Michael Ross agreeing with me.
They're all agreeing with you. Kaiser, Michael Ross, and Morgan Lamont all said 3-1.
There you go. So, can't be wrong, Sean. Can't be wrong. I've been wrong about everything else here in the World Cup, so maybe domestic stuff's my forte. Like to think so. 4-1 Celtic, says 𝘀𝗶𝘆. Yeah, but you, as you say, you want a win. But a statement win would be even better. Tick the 2 boxes. No, the performance and result. Oh, David Ferguson's gone in heavy. 4-0 Celtic. Go on, David.
Is he going to rile you up into a 5-0 when he says that?
No, nothing like that. I've already given my prediction. But listen, if it's 4-0 or 5-0, I think we'll all be a happy Monday, won't it? So
yeah.
So geared for that. But gentlemen, that's more than half an hour gone already as we await the return of domestic football. You can't beat it, and we'll be doing a predicted 11, won't we? That'll be fun.
Yep. I've stuck in the comments. Well, I've accidentally pasted the whole description in it. It was actually just meant to be the Celtic home top Christmas giveaway part. Just to let you know that's going again. So you just follow the link if you can find it, and amongst all the other stuff that I've just put up by accident, and go and retweet that tweet. Make sure you follow the Celtic Way Twitter account, and that's you in the drawing for Monday.
Nice one. That'd be a nice wee surprise for someone at Christmas. Our Celtic top, Sean.
Yeah, a wee Christmas present.
Christmas present.
You'll want it in time for Christmas anyway. But
so what do you do? Retweet the link and
retweet the post and follow the account, and that's you in the draw. Yeah.
Right. Not much to ask. There you go, guys. Another wee Brucey bonus, and as always, we've got deals for you. And the current deal is this: you can enjoy 25% off the yearly price in a Merry Christmas deal, and that takes it down to a yearly rate of £26. Or if you subscribe, you can enjoy 2 months of free access to everything that's on the web. Sorry.
Well, 2 months for access. Anyway, it's really free, but
it's £1 for 2 months of full access to everything that's written on the website. You know the drill. It's been a long half an hour there, guys. You know what I mean? And all you have to do is hit the button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Gentlemen, we await the return of domestic football with bated breath. We are hopeful that Celtic can continue from where they left off, re-establish their 9-point lead. Aberdeen's always tricky, but their recent record has been decent. Thanks, guys, for all the comments. We enjoy the debate. It's magic. We like to engage. As you can see, I bang on about the community we've created here, but we really do enjoy it. Thanks, Sean. First class as always. Aidan, top man.
Cheers.
like the cap.
Aidan, you've got to need to prove to people that you've not got a baldy under there, because Kaiser's been saying he thinks you're going stone cold Aidan Austin under that cap. So.
Nah, no, quite yet. Probably soon the way things are going, but not quite yet.
Can I just I've got to say, Frank Brennan coming in, all these strikers are ensuring almost nothing is arriving for Christmas. Well, you know the answer, Frank. Blame the people that's not paying them then.
Exactly, Frank.
And as David Ferguson says, solidarity with the striker.
Indeed. Right, yeah, Kaiser, I'll let Kaiser have the last word. Great show, lads. Hail.
Thank you, Kaiser.
Thank
Appreciate
you very much.
that. Indeed. Guys, we're hoping it will be a happy Monday. We'll reconvene on Monday and we'll dissect the Aberdeen game. But have a wonderful weekend. Hopefully Celtic can win another 3 points, re-establish their 9-point lead. That's what it's all about. Take care.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Trips.
Cheers.